Hello YouTube, it's Ewan Jones. On Friday the 24th of May 2019, I attended an event at the University of Cambridge. The event was put on by the campaign group Justice for Men and Boys. J4MB are an anti-feminist organisation who stand up for men's rights and assert that men's rights are trampled upon by the movement of establishment feminism. In the weeks leading up to the talk, radical feminist students at the University of Cambridge tried to get the event cancelled. Fortunately, they didn't succeed. There were protests by students and articles written by radical feminists for the student newspaper Varsity. On the 25th of April, an article in Varsity revealed that 240 students and faculty members had signed an open letter to the University Vice-Chancellor, Stephen Toop, demanding for the talk to be cancelled. The letter asserted that the event is not in line with the values and mission of the university, especially our stated core value of freedom from discrimination. In a statement to Varsity, one of the organisers of the petition reiterated the sentiments of the letter. They stated, "None of us are free to think, speak and learn if we fear for our safety, and although the university prides itself on its academic rigour, the ideas J4MB present simply do not comport with these high standards." The open letter was arranged by PhD students within the Department of Politics and International Studies, and it noted that the use of the Alison Richard building was organised without any consultation with members of the department and is now scheduled to be held with overwhelming departmental opposition. This attitude is reflected in the high number of faculty members who have signed the open letter, including 4 senior lecturers. The letter also stated that previously J4MB had engaged in harassment of members of the university, and there is a credible threat that members of the university will be subjected to further harassment. In particular, the group is noted as having harassed students, members of staff, and societies at Cambridge, including a number of Cambridge academics. This event exposes these individuals and others to the risk of further intimidation and physical harm. The organisation have consistently targeted female scholars at Cambridge in articles written by Mike Buchanan on their website. Mike Buchanan, the leader of J4MB, denied claims of harassment. As far as I can tell, this is complete crap. The article cites no specific examples of harassment, just nebulous claims of harassment, immediately followed by the assertion that these people are likely to be the target of further intimidation and physical harm. Maybe if there were some documented examples of intimidation to start off with, then there may be a risk of further intimidation. But if there's no intimidation to start off with, then there's no further risk of intimidation. And as for the situation escalating to physical violence, well, that's what's known as wild hysteria. So what was the result of this open letter? The university caved somewhat. They moved the event to another building in the university. On the 5th of May, another ridiculous article then appeared in Varsity magazine, written by Cambridge student Connie DePellet. She writes of J4MB, "Theirs is a particular brand of misogyny, only thinly concealed by the guise of a fight for free speech, and soon to be endorsed by the reputation of the University of Cambridge." Notice how these activists always have to ban free speech first. That's always the first thing that has to go. Connie DePellet goes on to recount her traumatic experience of getting into an online discussion with members of J4MB. She states, In their comments, supporters of the group attacked the validity of my education. They reduced my friends and I to ugly beta feminists, rejected my friend's experience of prejudice as a woman of colour, declared me emotionally unstable and devoid of the male contact I evidently crave. They ran through a kind of twisted checklist of offensive gendered stereotypes under the pretense of their right to free speech. Every time I checked my phone, I would find fresh abuse. People I'd never met, mocking my gender, intelligence, and experiences. I began to wonder who around me also shared these beliefs about women. Conversations with friends began to feel like tests of allegiance. The university's platforming of this group felt like the latest in a string of repercussive oversights in a history of colonised syllabuses, harmful investments, and bigotry harboured within college walls. After further histrionics, de Pellet goes on to assert that J4MB should be banned from the university. The misogyny that J4MB represents should not be legitimised as a topic that our freedom of expression enables us to engage with. The aggression they have exhibited online represents a very real risk to students' welfare. In allowing their presence on campus, the university fails to support its female identifying student body. This endorsement of misogyny in exchange for this brand of free speech is a price too steep to pay. Well, she tried her best, but she was unable to get the event banned. So, on Saturday the 18th of May, a protest was held outside Senate House at Cambridge University. In this event, students rallied against the university's decision to allow J4MB to put on their talk. They held up signs with various slogans. Their slogans included, "Keep your misogyny out of our university," as well as their piece de resistance, "Fuck off." The day of the event, Friday the 24th of May, arrived. Earlier in the week, the organisation J4MB left a post on their website stating that they would meet at a specific pub in Cambridge before the event. Mike Buchanan, head of J4MB, Elizabeth Hobson, his assistant, and supporters of the group arrived at the pub, but they weren't the only ones to know about this meeting. A female Cambridge student, accompanied by a cameraman from Varsity newspaper, came to the pub. The student had in her hands a McDonald's milkshake. The Varsity photographer had a camera and was ready to snap. The student threw their milkshake over Mike Buchanan, and the Varsity reporter photographed the incident. Okay, so the photographer didn't get a good angle of Mike. He's here between these two people in the photo and can hardly be seen. Although we do see a perfect image of the milkshake flying through the air. As far as I can tell, the cameraman had preset the camera at a fast shutter speed. This is necessary to capture a dynamic event with a high degree of sharpness. The lighting for the shot was also correct, and I wouldn't be surprised if the photographer used burst mode. In this setting, the cameraman presses down the shot button and the camera takes a spree of photos. The best image can be decided upon afterwards. So the point I'm making is that we can see from this photo, the photographer had set up their camera to perfectly capture Mike being assaulted by a milkshake. This is a picture of Mike Buchanan after the assault. You wore it well, mate. So after the incident, a few members of J4MB chased after the woman who threw the milkshake. They apprehended her and phoned the police. The police took a while to arrive, and the woman, with the help of a male friend, broke free. The J4MB members pursued her to the university site, Pembroke College. She entered, but they were unable to, not being university students. The J4MB members phoned the police again. The security guard at the gate to Pembroke College confirmed he knew the identity of the woman. So the identity of the female who assaulted Mike Buchanan has been confirmed. We're just waiting to see now what action the police take against her. A ludicrous report of this event was posted in the student magazine Varsity. The article states, "One individual was caught and held by their arm against their will by supporters of the group J4MB. They were surrounded by J4MB members before porters from Pembroke College arrived. Yeah, she was apprehended because she had committed a crime. Thus, she was placed under citizen's arrest. I don't see a problem here. I arrived into Cambridge at this point and I accompanied members of J4MB to the university building where the talk was to be held. Here's what we saw when we arrived."
A lot of you, what's happened? Someone follow that way. Someone leave now and go that way. So you can get out that way, away from J4MB. Go that way now. Everyone follow Ben now. Everyone follow Ben that way now.
This gang of students left the scene before returning a short while later. They then blocked the entrance to the building. And they started to scream out ridiculous chants. I was unable to get much footage of this because the security guard told me to stop. I did, however, manage to get a decent audio feed of the protesters. Here it is.
Say it once, say it again, no excuse for violent men. Say it once, say it again, no excuse for violent men. Say it once, say it again, no excuse for violent men. Say it once, say it again, no excuse for violent men. Cambridge, can you hear us? Louder by the hour. Power. Cambridge, can you hear us? Louder by the hour.
Are you a communist?
There's a great photo here of J4MB's Elizabeth Hobson standing up to the tide of protesters while wearing sunglasses and looking nonplussed. Nice work, Elizabeth. I also think it's important to bring up this "Milkshake the Misogynist" sign. So let's unpack this a little bit. A member of this radical feminist group goes to the pub where J4MB were having their lunch before putting on their talk. She goes there and throws a milkshake over Mike Buchanan, and a Varsity reporter who has accompanied her is on hand to take snaps of the event, and another member of the radical feminist group puts together a sign that states "Milkshake the Misogynists." I think this unequivocally proves that the group knew about the plan to assault Mike Buchanan. They sent one of their members to carry out the assault with the aid of a Varsity reporter to take snaps, and another member of the group designed and proudly displayed a poster bragging about the incident. Because these protesters had blocked the main entrance to the building, students and members of the public who came to see the talks were escorted around to a side entrance. The talk went ahead as planned and it was good fun. There was one minor issue that we could hear the protesters outside. Some of them brought drums and whistles, others started screaming. They proceeded to make a racket the whole time the talk went on for. I recorded some footage of the background drone during the talks. Here it is.
Destroying a business that was owned and staffed by women. When the proprietor went to the WSPU to complain, she was told that she was taking too personal a view of the matter and that the staff would no doubt be glad they had lent support to the women's cause. 96 homes were targeted.
The series will be held in Chicago this coming August, 3 months away. The key hosts will be Karen Strawn and Alison Seaman, Canadian women who've been prominent anti-feminists and NRAs for a decade.
Afterwards, a father and his 16-year-old boy who had attended the lecture were attacked by the radical feminist protesters who had hounded us all day. The two of them spoke to the police, and I believe they are pressing charges against the radical feminists. In summary, I think the events that happened at the University of Cambridge were incredibly alarming. We saw a small minority of students who had become radicalised, and they were basically acting as a cult. They attempted to shut down a talk by an organisation who speak out about important men's issues and the hypocrisy of establishment feminism. The radical feminist group were anti-free speech and they were pro-violence. They engaged in 2 assaults which I believe are now both being investigated by the police. And yet it appears this group was supported by the student newspaper Varsity and members of the university faculty. This is a worrying situation. I think it's essential that the police and the university both take appropriate action against these student thugs, and the newspaper Varsity apologises to J4MB for their role in promoting the protests and the violence against this political organisation. Unfortunately, I think what happened on the 24th of May 2019 shows the University of Cambridge in a very poor light. Thank you.